So, welcome to my Conscious Life podcast. I'm Dr. Laura Nassi. I'm an integrative oncologist and an astrologer. And this is episode number 6 of my astrology and health season. So, I've been practicing integrative oncology and including the information of the natal chart now for over 10 years, and I found it very, very useful in understanding and helping people understand what type of lifestyle led them to be vulnerable, to get sick, and what might help them to regain and retake a healthier path in their lives. And it all has to do on how we live our everyday life, and going back to a healthier life has to do with changing our habits and also adopting healthier habits, and usually habits that have to do more with whom we are and what type of lifestyle is more according is more resonant with our essence, with who we are energetically. Like I always say, each of us, we're very singular, and we have specific needs. So what best than get to know ourselves and design a life as much as we can that fits who we are and that fits a healthy life for ourselves. And usually health and happiness go together. So as Joseph Campbell once stated, follow your bliss. Bliss is one of the keys in the road to regain health. So this is why I opened this astrology and health podcast to talk about not only health at a physical level, but also understand different levels of reality, like our mental level, our emotional level, our spiritual level, our conscious level, our societal level, and nowadays our planetary level, and how in a system, in a complex system that we are and where we're included, every little part affects the whole, and the whole affects the parts. So understanding what's going on in the relation of the macrocosmos and the microcosmos, of the universe, of the planet, and ourselves and our bodies, we can get some clues on how to redirect our life and get into a healthier path. And today is a very special day astronomically and astrologically. Astronomically, we had earlier today this lunar eclipse. It means that precisely when the sun and the moon were facing each other on a full moon, the earth got in the middle and casted a shadow over the moon. So this is like if you were in a party and two people were intensely talking to each other and you got in the middle of the conversation. And this eclipses, and this lunar eclipse, has always been, since ancient times, like an very important event astronomically. But also we started understanding that it has an important meaning astrologically. This means that astronomically we can see this movement in the sky, and we can see the earth casting a shadow on the moon, and the moon turning into this reddish color, which is very beautiful for those who were able to see it earlier today. And astrologically, it means like giving meaning to this astronomic event. We can see that this precise lunar eclipse happened in a specific part of the universe. It happened exactly near where the crossroads of the moon highway and the solar highway cross. So what does it mean? Since we are on Earth, we can see, we have the perception that of the moon going around the Earth, but also we have the perception of how the sun moves. We know that it's the Earth moving, but also that the sun, we have the perception from the Earth that the sun is moving. And so if we imagine like the sun is going through its highway and the moon is going through its highway, there's this nodes, there's this cross points where they cross, the sun and moon highways, and these are called the lunar nodes. So what happens is that today the sun and the moon faced each other precisely at the or very, very, very near that highway crossroad of the sun and the moon highways. And this has traditionally had a very important meaning, because these are times of portals of information. It's times that we can feel that there's information coming to us in Earth. And if we see astronomically, this is something that is happening, the sun and the moon meeting in the axis of Sagittarius and Gemini. It happens now and again for almost 20 months. This is something that happened, that started on June 2020 and will end in January 2022. This dance of the sun and the moon meeting at different instances near those crossroads. So we know that this 18 to 20 months are a special period to understand what's going on those crossroads. Those crossroads that nowadays are in Gemini and Sagittarius. That's one of the axes of the zodiac sign, of the zodiac wheel. So what does Gemini and Sagittarius have to do? Gemini and Sagittarius are the axes that talk to us about learning and knowledge and wisdom and beliefs. So it's a very important time this year, or over a year and a half, to reflect over our beliefs, our belief system of what is true for us, on how we learn, on how we adopt certain truths. And each time we have a new moon or a full moon near this crossroads, it's a good time to reflect on these issues. This morning the sun was in Gemini and the moon was in Sagittarius, and they were facing each other. And this brings us to reflect on at our human level, to reflect on our beliefs and our learning curves. So in astrology we can think about, we can go back to this image of the Russian dolls, of the mamushkas. So we can see that there's one bigger mamushka and we open it up and there's a smaller one inside, and we open up and there's another one. So in astrology we can look at different cycles. So what I'm talking about over these 20 months of the moon and the sun forming a new moon or a full moon near the crossroads of Sagittarius and Gemini, this is like the bigger mamushka. And the smaller mamushka, remember 2 weeks ago we started talking about the new moon in Taurus. So in the close aspect, the moon started 2 weeks ago in Taurus, now it's in Sagittarius, and will complete that one cycle. But in the bigger picture, in the bigger mamushka, this eclipse is showing us a bigger cycle, which is this cycle of 20 months I'm talking about, of the meeting of the sun and the moon, either in a new moon or facing each other in a full moon in Gemini and Sagittarius. So it's 20 months to reflect on our beliefs, on our belief system, on how we learn. And so having the south node in one of the crossroads of the highway in Sagittarius, what it invites us is to reflect on our beliefs and what are the beliefs we've been carrying with us. What are our own beliefs, but what are our family beliefs, our cultural beliefs, our religious beliefs, and what are the ones that we want to keep on carrying. So we are full of statements, of things we repeat every now and then, and we don't even question where they come from, and we just follow and adopt them like they were part of our belief system, and they are, until we stop and question. So part of this, what the North Node in Gemini is telling us, is precisely to question our beliefs, question things that we have taken for granted, question things that are said or are maintained in my family, and whether I want to keep on maintaining them and pass them on to the next generation or not. And this, in the practical level, brings me to the story of a patient that came to see me in consultation, and she's a young woman, 23 years old, and she came to see me because she was very afraid because her grandmother had died of breast cancer. Her aunt was being treated for breast cancer. Her mother was just diagnosed with breast cancer, and she told me, Laura, I'm the only woman in my family who has my two breasts. Everybody else has been treated for cancer and either died or are being treated nowadays. And they had their genetic testing, and they didn't find any genetic mutation, any hereditary mutation. And what we discussed that first time I saw her was what were the belief systems, especially on the maternal life, that were being kept from one generation to another. And she rapidly recognized that it was the way of dealing with emotions that was being transmitted. So in her family, women were supposed to be all the time at the service of others. So she herself, 23 years old, was studying in university, but she had a nighttime job, and on her care of her mother, who was now being diagnosed and starting treatment with for breast cancer. And her mother herself, up to now, had been dedicated to taking care of her own sister, receiving chemotherapy for breast cancer. So when I asked her about when are your times of, re-energizing yourself, of resting, of doing things that you like, of taking care of your needs, and there was none of that. And she said, but this is like this in my family. We're not supposed to take care of ourselves, we're supposed to take care of the other ones. So for her, that instance was a big insight to understand that what was being repeated was these patterns in her family, especially in her maternal family, the maternal line, of how to deal with life, how to deal with their own needs, how to ignore their own needs for the benefit of others. And once and again, everybody was getting sick. So this is how I link astrology and knowing oneself and consciously living with health. So health is not about a disease that attacks me, or I have bad luck and I have a bad diagnosis, but it does have to do with how we're living and how we're dealing with our emotions, how we're taking care of ourselves, how we're attending to our basic needs, and how we're repeating certain patterns that are not healthy for us. So it is time, and especially in days like today where there's big information coming in, to reflect on how I'm living, on what are things that I'm repeating unconsciously, and to start bringing that to awareness and start to take more conscious decisions for my life. So the eclipses don't affect everybody in the same way. It all depends whether in your chart you have something near precisely where the eclipse happened earlier today, which is at the 5th degree of Sagittarius and Gemini. So for some people it will be a strong event, and you may feel it even in your body. You may feel like very tired, or you may feel like you're eating more because you need to digest more information, and so the movement of the digestive system will accompany this movement of integrating more information. For some of you, you may be having a hard time to sleep because you may be getting information that is unsettling, or you may have very vivid dreams, and it's a time not to do anything on purpose, but just to be very attentive, to be very in the present moment, and to listen to whatever signals come around. If you had a dream, if you're reminded of something, if someone came back into your life who you haven't seen in a long time, it's all information that is coming to you in order for you to become conscious of these patterns that are being repeated without consciousness, and start asking yourself questions. Why is it that I do this like this? Why is this my choice? Is this something that I have chosen for myself, or is a pattern I'm repeating from my family? So it's a good time for questions. Questions are a big component of knowledge, of learning. So it's a big time to question yourself, and whatever you have been, you can be certain about, but from being stuck in a belief. It's a moment to start questioning, and to start observing what information is coming to your life. Maybe something you read, maybe something in your dream, maybe an image, maybe someone reminds you of something, and start to observe these patterns. But for this, it's very important that you calm your mind, and that you are in the present moment. And this brings us back to what we talked about Taurus, and this month that started with a new moon in Taurus. So Taurus is the energy that we need in order to receive that information, to become aware of that information. We need to slow down, we need to stop, we need to calm our mind in order to be able to start seeing whatever we are not seeing when we are rushing around. If you happen to watch this series, His Dark Materials, there's this girl who uses this alethiometer, I think it's called, and she learns how to use it precisely when she understands that by calming her mind, then the information starts flowing. So this is how we combine what we are living these weeks in a season of Taurus, which invites us to bring ourselves to the present moment. Start questioning whether certain patterns of how I act, of what I choose, of how I deal with my emotions, are they my own? Are they based on my own beliefs, my own certitudes, or am I just repeating unconsciously patterns that I've adopted from others? And it's a good time to develop our intuition, to listen to that gut feeling. So if it's a time that you felt you want to do things differently, you want to honor other things, like honor your time in nature, or honor the times that you are having a good time, just listen to your intuition. See where your intuition takes you to, because the healing path has a lot to do with listening to yourself and letting your higher self show you the way, show you the kind of life that is healthier for you. And for that, it's very important to slow down. So coming back to this lunar cycle, because it's a lunar cycle, it's a good time to ask ourselves about our maternal lineage and what are the beliefs about women in our family history, in our family tree. Because in June we will have the solstice, which has to do more with the sun, and it's more of a time to ask about the paternal lineage. But right now, it may be that it's more of the maternal lineage that is bringing information, or that the information that is coming to you has to do with your maternal lineage. Anyway, be open to whatever information comes, because you may get information also about your paternal lineage. But if you want to ask yourself, just take a moment to reflect on all these women that came before you, and what kind of life they led, how they were connected to protecting their basic needs, how were they connected to their desire, or how did they deal with what they really made sense for them in their life. And you may get some clues for yourself. So a couple of more things I wanted to bring with this Gemini-Sagittarius axis is that when we're stuck in Sagittarius, we think that we know we have certitudes, and it's very easy to fall also on judging other people who don't believe, or who don't act, or who don't choose the same as we do. And traditionally, humanity has looked at fighting against each other when we are not thinking or feeling alike. And precisely Sagittarius, it's a sign that tells us about inclusivity, about how to include all different views. And in that sense, Gemini, that has to do with communication and relating to our peers, to our neighbors, to our to people, to our brothers, to our sisters. They talk to us about that integration has to do with including all points of view. And there's no way that some point of view has to be forced in a top-down manner from one person to another. So it's a time to start reflecting on how much chaos we're having in the world right now, because some people are trying to force their own thoughts or their own viewpoints, and how much we need to start stopping the judgment and recognizing that each one of us has their own essence, and we may have our own viewpoints, our own desires, our own decision making, and we need to learn how to include all other perspectives as well without judging. Because at the macro, what happens is when there's confrontation, then there's war. Well, at the micro, we can think about cancer also as some type of invasion of some group of cells who wants to invade and uh, submit other cells into their power. So what we see in the macro, we can see in the micro. So how are we dealing with our own doubts, with our own parts of ourselves that don't feel the same? How are we dealing when we feel like doing something, but at the same time refraining, part of us refraining from it? So how are we dealing with these inconsistencies within ourselves? Because that will reflect on how we deal with inconsistencies when we are meeting someone else who does not think or feel like us. And at the macro level, this is happening in groups of people who are fighting each other because they don't resonate with each other. So Gemini and Sagittarius also invite us to include all of our parts inside, and not confront or bring that conflict inside, but learn how to breathe. That yes, there are parts of me that feel like going forth, and there are parts of me that are happy to settle down. So how do I include both parts? In a practical way, I can tell you about a patient who had this very strong opposing forces within herself in relation to living with a couple. So at some point she would like to be in fusion with a couple, but when they were really living together and very close and sharing a lot together, she would feel suffocated and needed to take some air, to take some days away, to take some days off. So because she had these two strong forces within herself, and they fought a lot over this, because when they were together they wanted to be separated, and when they were separated they wanted to be together. So at the end they were able to settle this in a way of living, having two homes, and being some days together and some days apart. And this is just a way to reflect how this is brought in the daily living, how we may have these very strong opposing forces within ourselves, and we need to find creative ways of dealing with them on our daily living, for us, with ourselves, and for others. Because otherwise this war starts inside, and that means disease. That means that we get sick. We cannot be in war with ourselves. And yeah, and the last thing I wanted to mention, and I always cherish a lot the information that the artists bring us. Artists are like these people with this big antenna that bring this information to us, and I love, they have so many insights, and so clear insights. So I like reflecting on the words of many songs of musicians who bring this, composers who bring this information down for us all. And one of them is Bob Marley. I like in his Redemption song when he says, none but yourself can free yourself of your mind. I think this is a great moment to think about this. We are imprisoned in our own thoughts, in our own beliefs, and nobody else can take us out of that prison. It's ourselves who accepted certain beliefs, accepted certain truths without questioning. So it's only ourselves that we can free ourselves from that prison, by questioning, by really connecting to what is truth for us, and living a life that is in coherence to what we think, what we believe. Because in that way, if each one of us is coherent with who we are, we allow others to do the same. And so just reflect on how can you liberate yourself from the prison, from from the thinking prison that you yourself have have made have accepted, and that you yourself have the key with the questions that allow you to open up certain beliefs and get out of those imprisonments. So I invite you these days to just take good pauses, to just connect to yourself in nature, and listen to whatever life brings you. Listen to yourself, listen to your intuitions, listen to your dreams, listen to the information that comes, and breathe it. Breathe it, make notes, and let this information settle within you. And ask yourself questions to see how to open those prison doors and start living more freely, more in resonance, more in coherence with who you are. So I hope you have a nice week. I hope this podcast has helped you to let some questions resonate within you. So good journey, and I'll see you next